Hello and welcome. This is Patty Bennett with pattystamps.com. So excited to be with you today. I am really excited about these beautiful peony flowers, and I am super excited that you're with me. How's that for lots of excitement? So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And I hope that you will learn something fun today about assembling these peonies and different ways that you might want to make them. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Dawn. So if you're joining me live, you're going to see a little red live button up there, and that means I can see your comments. I can see when you're logging on, and I will try my best to answer your comments live. If you don't see that little red live button, then that means you're watching later, maybe on YouTube, maybe on my blog. That is totally great as well. I just won't see your live comments. So just going to give it just a moment while people are logging on, because I don't want anybody to miss all the excitement about these fun peony flowers. Hey, Andrea, Karen, Faith, Chris, Patricia, lots of people joining. Arizona, Michigan, Indiana, woohoo! Colorado, hi, Carrie. Thank you, everyone. All right, so hey, Jerry, Lynn, Tina, Jennifer, oh my goodness, so wonderful to see everybody on here. So today we are going to be talking about all these different ways to make these beautiful peonies, and they are so gorgeous. Let me show you that it's part of a bundle. You can purchase the stamp set. You can also purchase the dies. You could do that separately, or you can purchase it in a bundle. And right now, the wonderful thing about this bundle is that since it is $57.50, that's a discounted price, you would qualify for a $5 bonus day coupon, because when you spend $50, then you would get a $5 coupon to spend in August. So if you're watching this live, then you are during these dates and you would qualify. Now, if you're watching this months or years later, this is only valid July 1st to August 3rd, 2020. But I just wanted to mention that this bundle does qualify. You're going to find it in the current Stampin' Up! Catalog, page 82 and 83. So it's a great suite of products, and I've used the flower dies to make, as you can see, lots and lots of different flowers. Now these dies, what I did was I separated them onto two of my magnet cards that I like to use from Stampin' Storage. This side over here, I put all of the dies that coordinate with the stamp set. So you can see that this one cuts out the big flower, this one cuts out the medium flower, this one cuts out the small flower, and then you have lots of leaves to use. So for instance, if you were stamping the large flower and die cutting it, you would be using these pieces. This, by the way, will be on my blog coming up. I don't know exactly what day, but this is going to be a really beautiful fun fold that I will share with you. So that is how I separated them. So the dies that go with the stamp set, I put it on one magnet sheet. Okay, but we don't need those today. What we're working with are these 5 pieces. And this is just a decorative scalloped edge. It's just sort of an extra bonus in there, so we don't really need to look at that, but we need to look at these 5 pieces. And if you looked at my blog today at pattystamps.com, you will have seen that I showed a picture of this and how I separated the dies, and I kind of put a red circle around these so that you can see exactly which pieces you need to make these flowers. So you will also want to have on hand your dimensionals. I used both regular and mini. I used glue dots, and I have used vellum. Isn't that pretty? Look how dimensional. Can you see all the layers and dimensions in the vellum? I have used Glimmer paper. This is the new Stampin' Up! Rainbow Glimmer paper. This idea was thanks to my downline, Leticia. She sent me a picture like this, I don't know, a week or two ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make that. I used cardstock that I embossed and shimmered and sponged. So I'll go through that, show you that. I used cardstock that I did a lot of sponging and a lot of dimension with dimensionals. And then this one actually was my very first one. I just wanted to see how this went together. So this would be like your simplest, and we're going to start with this. It's basically just white cardstock, a tiny bit of sponging, and then layering the pieces together. So I'm going to show you this one first. In case you haven't made this flower yet, it will give you just the basics of how this flower goes together. Then we'll get into these other steps and these other ideas for using these dies. So I kind of had that covered up, but here's the whole Peony Garden suite. The paper is gorgeous. There are also these embellishments. Excuse me while I reach. I just want to grab a package and show you. That one's almost used up. I want to grab a new package. So we also have these gorgeous embellishments in this suite. And then there is some shimmer. I think I have it right here. Yep. Some gray granite shimmery ribbon. I believe it's on back order as of this live date, but it's beautiful as well. So lots of beautiful products in this suite. Didn't want you to miss any of those beautiful things. Well, thank you, Catherine. She says she loves my videos. That is just super kind of you. I appreciate that. So we're going to start with, like I said, just the super simple version. And this is just white cardstock. That's when you get your layers together. It'll look like that if you don't do anything else to it. But let's look. So here's this piece, this piece, this one, and this one. So it's just those four, and the center, I've already got this sponged, but that little center piece as well. And then I did some leaves. So before you sponge, it's just going to look like this, and I'll show you how I sponged those pieces so you get an idea. Actually, we'll just leave that right on there. I'll kind of just tuck it to the side so that it doesn't get in our way. You can select any color at all that you would like to do some sponging. But I want to show you the difference. If you were to skip the sponging, you would just get white layers like this. If you do just a tiny bit of sponging, you're going to get this look. Let me bring in this. It's like I need another hand or another assistant. And that would show you the progression if you use a lot of sponging and several colors. So that kind of gives you an idea of just plain, a little bit of sponging and a lot of sponging. So there's your 5 pieces when you die cut them out. I think I will go with Flirty Flamingo. This is Petal Pink. But I thought maybe if I used a different color, we would get just a little bit different look on this one. Then you could compare. I personally like the sponge daubers. You could use regular sponges or you could use the daubers. I just really love the daubers. They're my kind of personal favorite. I found, and you can see right here, that if you sort of alternate layers where you have a sponged and a white and a sponged and a white and a sponged and a white, that I liked that contrast. Can you see how that is just a little bit of contrast there? I liked that a lot. So I would start by just going around the edge of the big piece, just for a little bit of color, and then I might just stamp or sponge off. I'm going to actually just do this so it doesn't get all over my grid sheet. Just give a little bit of color, And it's kind of funny because you'll think that you're not getting a lot of color, and then at the minute that you lay the next layer on there with all white, you all of a sudden can see the difference. So do you see the difference there of the sponged and the white? So you don't need a lot of color, but it's nice to have some contrast. So I will just kind of keep going, give the tips a little bit of color. Now this bottom section is going to be hidden. That's tucked back in. But what does show is this part right here, this edge. So I'm going to try to just hit that a little bit. Just a little bit. You can always add more. You can't easily take away. Oh, right here. Okay, thank you. I'm just watching the comments, and Fern was saying she didn't realize how this layered together, and so she was going to pass this up. But yes, this is just so amazing. When you get these all layered, it's just beautiful. Really, really pretty. And it seems like for a lot of years, we have had different like petals and different dies, and we've sort of tried to make things work like this. And this one is actually meant to work like this. So I'm really thrilled. I think this is amazing that they have, Stampin' Up! Has given us these dies that work together. So there's just a little bit of sponging here and there on the edges, not a ton. And then we're going to layer together. So you can either go smallest, let's put these in order so you can see what I'm saying. You can either start layering smallest to largest, or you can start with your largest and tuck each one into it. It doesn't matter. You're going to turn out with the same result. So however you would like to do it, however it works for you, is totally fine. I think I found that I like to hold the biggest piece in my hand first, take the next one and tuck it in, and then take the next one and tuck it in. That sort of worked the best for me. Now I want to show you this. See this little notch right here? It will line up with this little notch right here. I should say it can line up because I want to show you an alternate to this as well. But if you look at the back, you can see that I've lined up those notches. That's sort of how you know that it's basically in the right place. Then I'm taking the next piece and I'm adjusting it so that, again, those notches line up. And look how beautiful already. That really, I think that is a very realistic looking peony. A lot of the peonies I've seen have this sort of coloring. And then you can slip the smallest one in to that slot. So if you turn it over and you sort of adjust it so that that little notch lines up on all of them, then here's what you're going to get. But I found that it really doesn't matter. You could like slide this sort of down and you could get more of a graduation here. And then I just cut off. On the very first one I made, that's what I did. I just cut that off. But you can also just use that as a guide and line up those that little indent, whatever you want to call that. And there you go. So either way, totally works. And then this center, you can just tuck it down in and you can see how beautiful it looks when you get that darker part right in the center there. So that would be your absolute basic. This is the minimum you would want to do. Now, you could also crumple. You can also like curl. You can use your bone folder to curl. You can give each petal dimension like backwards, forwards, so that it's alternating. I think I want to pull this one a little bit forward. Okay, just that little bit of bone folder curling gives it dimension already. But here's what I loved to do. I preferred to grab my dimensionals, and I started tucking dimensionals inside there. Oh, Chris, I'm glad it's helpful. So glad. Oh, yes. Okay, so Pamela had a good tip. She said you could also take a little scrap. So, for instance, here's a scrap. And let's use this one as an example. You could tuck this in like this to be able to sponge those edges. That's a great tip so that you don't get more ink over here. It seemed to me that once I made one of these, I sort of got the idea. It's almost like you need to make one that's like this and have it at your desk and start looking and saying, okay, if I sponge here, if I sponge here, if this one is dark, if this one is light, and it sort of gives you an idea once you just have one and you set it aside. So anyway, that's sort of a tip. So here's what I like to do. I like to, okay, if I can get this to come off, well, it's still there. So I like to take off the dimensional backing, that little hexagon piece. There. Stick it to my pokey tool or my paper piercing tool or my take your pick tool, whatever, and just slide it in there and just sort of sandwich it. And usually, I don't know why, usually these come off really, there we go. Okay, pick it up like that, pull these layers apart and tuck it down in. And if you just keep doing that, you're going to start getting a ton of really gorgeous dimension. And the difference between this and just a plain flower is amazing. That just went flying. How funny. Okay, let me try and for some, I might need a mini under here. Oh, I can get it in there. For some of these layers, you're going to want to do a mini dimensional. Now, you can see I scooted that down, and so now I am going to need to cut this off. I liked it with more graduated dimension there personally, but however you want to do it is fine. So let's pull off the backing of a couple of minis, and let's get those tucked. I like to put one under here, and let's try another one down under here. And you can see already, do you see? I hope that's coming across on the camera, because it's such a difference between just flat layers and tucking a little more dimension in there with a dimensional. So that would be just sort of the basics, a basic flower, a little bit of sponging and a little bit of dimension. And then I would use my snips and I would just cut off those layers right under there so that they don't show. I found that if you're, for instance, on here, adding it to the belly band on this little acetate box, I just filled up the back with several dimensionals and stuck it on there, and that worked perfectly fine. When I am doing a belly band on a box, you can see that you can still open it and get to whatever gift you put in there without somebody destroying this decorative belly band. So that's my preference on that. These leaves, let's look at that set of dies. So the leaves are two-parted, two parts. What's the right word for that? This cuts out this little darker thing on the top here. There you go. You can see those. And this cuts out the back part. I cut both pieces with Granny Apple Green cardstock, and I used my Granny Apple Green Stampin' Blend to color the smaller part, and then I layered them with some liquid glue. You could cut it with 2 different colors. You leave it the same. You could do whatever you'd like. It's your project. But what I found that I thought was pretty with these, and I think somewhere in the catalog they did this. I first just sort of pinched it in half, and then I just sort of kind of crumpled to give it some dimension, and it really held that dimension. And then when I tucked it under there, see, you can see how just that teeny little bit gives it a lot of dimension. So that would be pretty under here as well. Now, if you wanted it to sparkle, can you see the difference, I hope, between the one on the left and the one on the right? Do you see the sparkle? It's always hard for me to know if you can see what I can see. I used one of our Stampin' Spritzers. I used Champagne Mist Glimmer paint, and I put 7 or 8 or 10 drops in there, and then I fill it almost all the way full with rubbing alcohol. And if you do the 70% alcohol, that's all you need. You don't need the 90. I shake it up real good, and then I spritzed it. I sprayed it, and so it's all sparkly. Oh, you can see the sparkle. Yay. Okay, good. So that's the difference of sparkled and not. It's the same cardstock, the same Whisper White. It's just gives it such a pretty look. All right, so let's move on to the other ideas with the other, like the vellum and whatnot. Let's look at the vellum one, because this one I think is just so gorgeous. So beautiful. And by the way, if you're looking for photos, this project with the little acetate box is on my blog, pattystamps.com, today. Today is July 2nd. These other projects will be on my blog in the days to come. I think tomorrow and the next day I have a couple more of these. I think one of them is the vellum and one of them is this, if I remember correctly. So you'll get to see more instruction and still photos in the days to come. But the vellum is gorgeous. So the same thing that we just did with the white cardstock, you're cutting out your pieces with the vellum, and we have this nice vellum cardstock that is a nice heavy-ish weight. It really holds up to all the die cutting. There's my big piece. Okay, so there's your die cut pieces with the vellum, and then I did just a little bit of sponging exactly the same way that I showed you with the white. And when you layer them together, so beautiful. This one I thought was a little heavy on that middle piece in there. I wasn't happy, so I didn't glue this one together. Come apart, please. They're like puzzled together there. I liked the dark here. When you slip this one in, you get that lighter, well, sort of. I guess I did that one pretty dark as well. But I thought that this center one, I think, needed to be light again. I just like that contrast, light, dark, light, dark. That's my preference. Non-cooperation. There, I liked that. Light and dark kind of back and forth. And I used on each petal, I used my bone folder, and very gently I was curling each petal, and it will stay because this cardstock vellum is wonderful. So do you see all that great dimension? And that's what gives all these petals all that little lift in there. The only thing I found with adhesive on this is that right here in the front, this front little flap, if I tucked any dimensionals or glue dots right there, you could see them. But once you get, back here like 2 and 3 layers in, it doesn't show. So I do have dimensionals and glue dots back in there to give it some lift, some fluff, but not right in the front because then it was showing. So that's a tip for you on that. I didn't sparkle this one. I just thought the vellum was gorgeous on its own. Oh, good question. Lori is asking, do you need to make sure that there is a correct side? Yes, it does layer better if, yeah, like I showed you in the first part. I took these off, but I'll put them back on here. So when you die cut them, if you leave them the same side up as they were die cut and you layer them in together, that's when that notch is going to line up on all the pieces. If one of them gets flipped, then you can see that notch is not lining up. Now, there's no right or wrong. Of course you could flip it. You just won't have that notch that lines up that I was showing you earlier. So if you prefer to experiment and kind of flip it and flop it, and I even think you could probably double up one of the layers. I don't see anything wrong with that. If you wanted sort of extra petals, extra dimension, why not? You could double it up. I think it'd be beautiful. So any way you would like to do it is fine. There is seriously no right and wrong with this, but those notches do help to line them up. That was a great question. Thanks, Lori, for asking that. Oh, good. Martha says she can't wait to get her bundle. Yay. Oh, stunning. Thank you, Chris. Yep. So there's vellum. So there we have paper and we have vellum. And then let me show you this one. Now this is another one I added sparkle to. Hopefully you can see the beautiful, beautiful sparkle because it is gorgeous. I used cardstock. This one is Petal Pink. This one's Flirty Flamingo, but they are very similar. And I embossed. Can you see that it's embossed? Can you see that? I used the Tasteful Textiles embossing folder. I think I have it right here. Let me, yes. Very subtle. It's similar to the folder that we have that's called Subtle, but it does look like almost a linen or some kind of a fabric. And I embossed a quarter sheet that fits in here first, and then I die cut them. Normally, I would say if you're embossing something and then you die cut it, that it's going to flatten it back out to do it in that order. But it really didn't. This is such a subtle embossed texture that it did not really flatten it back out. But either way, if you prefer to die cut them first and then put all the petals inside of here and emboss them, totally fine. Does not make a difference. And then you can see I did the same sponging I showed you on the first one with my sponge dauber. And then my secret weapon, the Champagne Mist Shimmer Paint, spritzed it all. And that's how you get all these beautiful elements to that. The difference on this one is that right after I spritzed, when the paper was damp, I crumpled it in my hand. I was a little nervous, but I'm like, hey, it's only paper. If we don't like it, we can redo it. But I think it turned out gorgeous. And then when it was totally dry, I layered them back together with all of those dimensionals like I showed you. And I just thought, wow, so pretty. I just thought it was, I just think it's stunning. At least in person it is. I added a piece of the Flowers for Every Season paper in the background just to bring in those soft pink colors. And it needed something, so I had this scrap on my table. I just added that. I drew a line with my Stampin' Write marker, stamped hello, And then to bring in the jade color, I used the jade plaid ribbon or gingham, I guess, and then some of these dots. And these are from the Playing with Patterns resin dots. Now, technically, this says it's Calypso Coral, but I think it really coordinates beautifully with the jade. So I used that. And I like to try to pull in a color more than once when I'm working on something. So you have the darker flamingo and the flamingo, and you have the jade and the jade. And the only thing that's not repeated is the yellow, but I think it's okay. I think it worked. I could have used the yellow dots on here. I was debating, but I didn't. I chose the cabana, Coastal Cabana. Did I say Coastal Cabana? I think I might have said something wrong. It's Coastal Cabana. I don't know what I said. Anyway, does not matter. So then when you get those layered up, you can see that that one's going to be just beautiful as well. I may still crumple this one, or I may just sort of lift up each petal to give it some dimension. But I liked the crumpled. I don't know. What do you think? I think it's fairly realistic looking. Then we just have two more that I wanted to show you. Not really too much different to report on this one, other than I went a little crazy adding a lot of colors. I did daffodil, petal pink, calypso coral, and flirty flamingo. And I am not sure how in love I am with it. It's pretty, but I really think in this case that less is more. I just think that a little bit of color goes a long way with this. So totally up to you. Experiment with different colors, see what you like. But then, talk about a lot of color. Oh my gosh, how fun is this rainbow glimmer paper with this flower? Oh my gosh, I just think it is amazing. Let me grab a whole sheet of this to show you. It's right here behind me. It's actually still in the pack. I've used so many packs of this. Let me open a new pack. So there are 2 sheets in the pack, and it's 12 by 12, and it goes all the way from the yellow into the oranges, the pinks, the purples, the blues, and the greens. And it is amazing. Now, if you have followed me for a while, you know that glitter is not my deal. Loose glitter, I can't do it. It gets everywhere for me. Glimmer paper, however, is different. This is like so wonderfully stuck to this paper that when you cut it, you die cut it, you work with it, the glitter does not go anywhere. So yay! Let me show you the pieces here. I die cut it in different areas of the paper so that I could decide how I wanted these pieces to go together. So you can see that I have like a purple and pink, and I have the pinkish, orangish, and yellow. This one would be starting with the yellow and going down to the pink. Same thing with these. And then this piece, I have my choice. I did all different. Here's one of the center ones. Oh, look, I even did leaves in the glitter paper. Here's those little tiny centers. I have a little, I've shown this before on some of my videos. I like to put my die cut pieces in it's a little dollar store bin, and then it keeps them all together, and then I'm not searching all over the place for my pieces. So there, I just gave myself options so that when I layer those 4 layers together, if I wanted to do like mostly one color, I could. If I wanted to start alternating colors, wait, not that one, this one. How about, no, I know, this one. So look, if I wanted to do a lot of contrast, you can see I can do that. So I just wanted to give myself options as I was die cutting all these pieces so that I could go back and decide how I wanted it to look. But this one, you can see I pretty much alternated, like the purple, the yellow, the pinky orange, and then the pink. And it just gives you all of those colors all together. And then depending on where in the green area you cut the leaves, you can get lots of different colors as well. And just same exact technique as I showed you way back in the beginning with adding the dimensionals. I've got all those dimensionals tucked in between all those layers. Oops, I need some more adhesive. Maybe I never stuck that down. Anyway, I have all those dimensionals in there just to give it a lot of pop and dimension. And oh my goodness, I'm just so thankful that Leticia showed me that idea with the rainbow glimmer paper, because I would not have thought of that on my own, I don't think. Oh, thank you, Lori and Cheryl. Hi, Sharon and Kathleen and Ruth. Thanks for joining me. I'm so glad you enjoyed that. So that is just 5 different ideas for you with the Peony die. Lots of ways that you can do the layering, the coloring, the sponging, embossing, spritzing, right? Just so many different things that you can do with those dies. And if you tuned in after the beginning, I'll show this one more time. The set of Peony dies is huge, lots of pieces. And I separated on my magnet sheets. These are the pieces that are going to die cut the flowers in the set. And then these are the pieces that you use to make the flowers. It's just easier for me to separate them and work with those pieces separately. So that tip, I do believe, is on my blog today at pattystamps.com if you wanted a refresher on how to do that. Oh, thank you, Janet, Suzanne, Faith, Gail, Chris, Judy, Michelle. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, I'm glad you like them. So do you have any questions about this? I want to hang out for a minute and answer questions if you have questions. Oh, that's funny. I see like a flickering light on the, I don't know what that is, why that's doing that. Do you guys see a flickering light? Maybe that's just me. I hope it's not flickering. You're welcome. I'm glad you enjoy it. Yeah, thanks, Lynn. I think that's a good tip. My brain was getting overwhelmed with all of those pieces. So by having them separated, that really worked well for me. No, I don't have a fan on, and I don't know why that's flickering. And then it stopped right there. That is really weird. Oh, how strange. Let me turn off. I have a different light on over here. I don't know if that's going to make any difference. I have to watch the replay to catch up. It didn't change it. Okay, well, that's kind of driving me nuts, so I'm probably going to sign off. I don't know what that light was. Oh, then it seemed to go away. How weird. I don't know what that was. Anyway, sorry about that. The centerpiece, do you mean this little one? It just goes inside the very, do you see there? Inside the very center, inside the last one. So it's actually just 5 pieces nested inside of each other. Yeah, I shouldn't have mentioned the flickering. I don't see it anymore. I don't know what that was. I have no idea why that was doing that. Sorry for the distraction. I shouldn't have even said anything. Oh, the spritz that I used, Michelle. So this is, where did I set my? This is the Stampin Up Champagne Mist Glimmer Paint or Shimmer Paint. This is a Stampin Up spritzer, or if you have a spray bottle, that works as well. And I put about 8 to 10 drops or so in the bottom. And then I fill it about 3/4 of the way full with rubbing alcohol. And let me grab this bottle over here. Hang on just a second. I don't know if you've seen this tip before. I put rubbing alcohol in one of these hair color applicators. The reason I do it is, do you see this really great tip on here? So, moving these because I don't want to spill anything. So when you are filling a Stampin' Spritzer or an aqua painter, a water painter, this, you would pull this out. This tip, it just goes in there so fabulously and you don't have to worry about spilling. I love that. So I have one for water, one for rubbing alcohol, and I keep these at my stamping desk. Anyway, then you shake it up really, really, really well, and then you would just take your flower or the separate pieces, either way, take off the cap and just spritz, spritz, spritz. I actually do this over my little waste basket. I put it on a paper towel and spritz so that it doesn't go everywhere. But if you're brave, you can just do it right at your desk as well. Either way. Either way. How long can you keep it? If you're talking about this, I usually use it up pretty much over the course of a few projects and then refill it. But I mean, this will stay like for a couple years. Rubbing alcohol doesn't really go bad for until a couple years. So yeah. Oh, I'm glad you like that idea. Yeah, it won't go bad or anything. You just have to shake it every time you use it. So just make sure that you're shaking it up to remix because the paint will settle down in the bottom. Great. So any other questions? Oh, good. Glad you like the hearts. I mean, glad you like the hearts. Thank you for the hearts. Glad you like the idea. Any other questions today? I hope you found all these tips helpful. I don't see any other questions going by, but I just wanted to say thank you again for joining me. And this project is at pattystamps.com today. The other projects will be on future blog posts starting tomorrow. And then I can't remember if I have them kind of spaced out. I think there might be, I think this is tomorrow and this is the day after. And then the rest of them are after that. I can't remember exactly. But, oh, thank you, Ruth. You're so kind. What size are the sheets? My magnet cards are 6x7 from Stampin' Storage. And then I have them in the Stampin' Storage, what do they call these? They're not called envelopes. I would call them an envelope. I forget what they call these. I'll put the link at the top of this video if you're watching on Facebook. I'll put it on there so that you can see. But I love having them in here. And somebody commented just after my last live, and this is such a good tip. She actually puts them in this way. Hang on. This direction. So that the whole magnet card is covered. And then you would label it on this side. I just haven't had the time to take off my labels and put them all on the front side. But I thought that was so smart instead of having this much of the magnet card exposed. I don't even know why I never thought about that. But thank you again to whoever that was. I can't remember who commented. Oh, hi, Mary. Yeah, I posted this morning that I was live at 11 Pacific time today. And we are just wrapping up. I hope that you will watch the replay. Any other questions? I don't see any other questions. So thanks again for joining me. And I will catch you next time, and I hope that you'll enjoy everything on my blog that I share each day. Have a great day, evening, morning, wherever it is that you are, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.